The world wasn't paying attention to the war in Mali and the fight against jihadists in the Sahara. It is now. Far from the Mali border, and less than 24 hours after the world got news of a hostage situation at one of Algeria's biggest natural gas export facilities near the Libyan border, there's word of a possible bloodbath. The French president speaks of a possible dramatic ending to that hostage situation. Earlier, Paris said it was working in close contact with its Algerian counterparts. Other nations less charitable when it comes to Algiers. London complaining it wasn't informed of the raid. The US demanding clarification. Tokyo demanding a halt to the assault, an assault which continues. Now, in the run-up to France's intervention in Mali, François Hollande last month traveled to Algiers. Algeria, which fought a long civil war in the 90s against Islamist radicals. Many of the leaders of the various jihadist groups today fighting the French in northern Mali are themselves, well, Algerian. What was the aim of those hostage takers in Algeria? Was that country's government right to react the way it did? And what impact on the war that's taking place across the border? Today in the France 24 debate, we're looking at the spillover from Mali. And with us to talk about it at this point is Cyril Vanier of France 24, who's been on the story the whole day and who's traveled to the region. And also a longtime reporter for the French news agency AFP, Emmanuel Goujon of the consultancy Africa Global Approach. Welcome, sir. The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter. You can find us at hashtag F24debate. Now, Cyril Vanier, we're getting a lot of contradictory information. Or even the numbers, the math doesn't even add up as to how many hostages were captured, have been freed. What have you pieced together? The reason this war of communiques is going on is because, well, there are no journalists on site, are there?
That's true. Bear in mind, this is happening in a very remote part of Algeria, pretty much away from everywhere and everything. So it's and Algeria is a country that, to begin with, is pretty closed off to the outside journalism. So that helps explain why there are so few outside eyes looking in on this. There are conflicting versions of events. What we do know for sure, pretty much the only thing we know for sure, is that Algeria launched a raid to try and release the Western hostages and Algerian hostages at that gas production facility. We believe that they were being held in two different parts. Perhaps we can bring up a map, in fact, of the facility. We believe they were being held in two different parts of the facility. One on a group of hostages on the production site itself, the gas production site, and another group of hostages at the living quarters, the barracks, where all the staff, engineers, and so on live. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and of course, one of the questions that's central to it, and we're still trying to piece it together. Maybe, Emmanuel Goujon, you have an idea on this. This is near the Libyan border. We know that Libya right now is, in those areas, is quite unstable. How did these guys get in the facility and take it over, obviously, is the question everyone's asking.
Well, they initially claimed, Emmanuel, that they came from Mali, but that's been denied by Algerian authorities, who said they neither came from Mali nor from Libya. So, and they're not going to be coming west from Morocco. So that just, you're left to infer that they were there. It's homegrown terrorism, that they came from these vast expanses in southern Algeria, where there have been some sporadic attacks over the last few years by Islamist groups.
What we know also is that the leader of this terrorist group that attacked this gas facility is an Algerian. Mokhtar Ben Mokhtar is Algerian, and he has some real base in Algeria, especially in that area. What we have to understand as well is that these terrorist groups in the Sahel at large, they don't know any borders. For them, Libya, Mali, Algeria is just a piece of desert where they can cross and go around wherever they want. They don't know any borders.
But the actual getting in the facility is the other question. I mean, normally you've got these private security companies at a lot of these places, the Algerian army defending the site. How'd these guys get in there?
I don't know the place myself, but as considering the pictures we have seen on the videos, on the news, it seems that it's not really a fortified place. What I mean is that it's quite an open place in the middle of nowhere, as Cyril was underlying it. And so I think it's very easy to get in. Even there is some security forces on the ground. There must be very few, private security most probably, not military. So it's a big difference. And so I'm sure they could have planned this operation for a long time, thinking about using that opportunity of this remote place to capture whenever they were willing to make a point, in fact. And that's what they have succeeded in.
We're looking at a map of the facility itself. Emmanuel Goujon, it's interesting you say long planned. Of course, that's not what they claimed in their initial statement. They said it was a reaction to the war in Mali and the French intervention.
Yeah, that's communication mainly. And they made their point. They say it's because of the French intervention and because Algeria authorized a French plane to fly over Algeria to go into Mali and to bomb there the Islamist places and strongholds. But the fact is that maybe they have planned this operation for a long time. We know that Mokhtar Ben Mokhtar, for example, have been kicked out from Al-Qaeda in Maghreb, Islamic Maghreb, for some time now. So maybe also he wants to gain more legitimacy into this organizing this operation in order to regain his credit among his terrorist colleagues in the area of Mali. Also, at the same time, it's a way and a strategy to internationalize the crisis in Mali. So now Algeria is deeply implicated into it.
Deeply implicated. Let's go to Algiers. Saïd Ben Ali is France 24's correspondent there. Saïd, thanks for joining us. An Algerian government minister just moments ago saying that the operation there was still ongoing. Well, what are authorities actually saying regarding the actual operation itself?
The only things we got from the Algerian authorities up to now is that they're talking about the release of 600 hostages, among them foreigners and many Algerian workers. So up to now, the minister, they're talking about mostly about the official things, but they're still saying that the operation is not finished yet. It's still operating. They're still negotiating with the terrorists. There's still some hostages kept inside the camp. So it's not finished yet. So the situation is still on operation right now.
Now, before the assault late on Wednesday, France 24 was contacted by one of the hostages. Here's what he had to say.
For the moment, I'm the only French person on this site. I don't know if there are any others. I'm with some British, Japanese, Norwegians, Filipinos and Malaysians. Above all, please tell everyone we've been treated well and that they are asking for the Algerian army not to intervene, otherwise they'll blow us up.
All right, so that was, of course, before it happened. And Cyril Vanier, we've seen the reaction since. London upset that they weren't consulted before.
Cameron says he got no notice of the raid. In fact, he's saying that he would have liked to have more information about this. The White House also saying they would have liked more information. Japan, you mentioned that earlier, calling on Algeria to actually end the raid. The Algerian response officially has been, this is a very fast-moving situation. We had to act quickly. We've been giving some information, but we can't just be getting green lights, you know, and be going through protocol. We had to act quickly.
Emmanuel Goujon, in Somalia, you covered the story of these jihadist groups. And you were saying a minute ago about communication. There's what they say thereafter, and then there's what they do. There's been some claim that they're more in the hostage business, rather hostage-taking business, rather than actual fighting for an ideological cause.
In Somalia, for sure. Some ethnic groups are taking some hostages, Westerners most of the time, because they are more valuable on the market, if we can say so. And they can exchange their hostages to other groups in order to make their own business. So it's a real business. In this part of the world we are talking about, which is the Sahel area, West Africa mainly, and Central Africa, I think it's pretty different. There have not been so many hostage crises before, let's say, 2 years. It's now becoming something they are doing a lot.
And we can call up a map. Ever since 2010, when hostages were taken at a site in Niger run by French uranium miner Arriva, the business of hostage-taking has, well, some might argue, budded there. You see that map. And again, Emmanuel Goujon, further to what you were saying about the part in red, of course, as being the sort of the area where these jihadist groups are said to roam. It's virtually impossible. You can send those drones out, but how do you police an area like that one?
It's almost impossible. In fact, for a long time, It was a Tuareg, an ethnic group from Mali, and which is also moving into Algeria, Niger, up to Morocco, in fact. That was giving some information, kind of trying to securize the area because they knew the roads, all the routes, the tracks through the desert, and they were the only one going through it. But with the development of human trafficking, drug trafficking, cigarette smuggling, all that kind of things, many mafia groups, in fact, developed in that area. And some of these mafia groups, in fact, now have joined the ACME, Al-Qaeda in Islamic Maghreb, in order to make their point, make more money sometime. And they finance sometimes even their military operation against the Malian government, for example, with the money of the cigarette smuggling, of the drug smuggling. So it's a very complicated landscape.
Lots of gray areas. And as you were saying, from what you've surmised, this was something that was planned in advance. It couldn't be something that was done on the spur of the moment 6 days after the French intervened in northern Mali. Now, Mali's foreign minister, who visited France 24 on Wednesday, agrees with that thesis and certainly says that what's going on across the border lends credence to France's intervention in his country.
These groups have been taking hostages for several years, and this shows their true nature. We're up against extremely dangerous groups, and that's how we must treat them.
Cyril Vanier?
So I think it's worth adding a little something to what you were saying about how this operation has been planned. I believe that's probably been the case. I believe they're probably all over the region, not just in southern Algeria, locating targets. But this is not new, and this is not happening just because of French troops being in Mali. This has been going on for years. And the very good map that you put up there that showed about, I believe it was 4 or 5 places where people have been kidnapped. Unfortunately, that is far from being an exhaustive list. There have been people kidnapped numerous times in Mauritania, in Mali, in Niger, as far as the capital Niamey, where Westerners...
So it sounds like the Somalia that Emmanuel Goujon is describing.
Well, I think what we're seeing is that sort of those dynamics shifting towards that entire region of West Africa. And that's what is so dangerous and what is so... I would say scary for Westerners. I mean, bear in mind, for our foreign viewers, that these countries that we see in that red line where Al-Qaeda is said to operate are countries where French people actually used to go on holiday until very recently. Ask anyone in the France 24 newsroom, some of our anchors, they'll tell you, yeah, I went to Mali, right smack in the middle of that place where Al-Qaeda is supposed to operate. So this is something that really resonates with the French people. And another word on how Al-Qaeda extends its influence, Al-Qaeda and other Islamist groups, they don't have thousands upon thousands of troops, of fighters that control the ground because, of course, they're a guerrilla movement. They don't control anything.
They don't need to.
How do you fight in the desert? By moving, by being very, very mobile and moving rapidly from one place to another. So one day they can be in northern Mali. 2 days later, they can actually be over 1,000 kilometers away.
And when I guess the events, the crisis came to a head back in March when Islamists took over vast swathes of the north while there was a coup going on in Bamako, the capital of Mali. Jeremy Keenan of the African Studies Department at London University was with us in the debate. He joins us now again. Thanks for being with us, Jeremy. At the time you said to us, I remember it well, you said, if you want to have an idea of what's going on in northern Mali, look across the border to Algeria. Now today, when you look at what's going on, what's your reaction? First off, to this hostage taking, what do you think the dynamics of it were?
Well, I think this is, first of all, this is a catastrophe for Algeria. This is hugely serious for Algeria in all respects. And I think basically this is an either-or situation. Either we are looking at a catastrophic failure of the Algerian intelligence and security system, or we are looking at collusion. And I think we're actually looking at the combination of the two in this case, much more complex than that, but that is how one would start, I think, looking at it.
Hang on a sec, collusion? Now, you have to sell me here. Is there a conspiracy here?
No, I don't like the word conspiracy. There is collusion, and by that, what I'm saying is that when I made that statement back in March, the Islamist groups that came into northern Mali, that is ACME, Mujal, and Ansar-Din, which is sort of is local, but all three of them were being backed in various ways by the Algerian intelligence services. So all three of them who've been getting support, right up into December, just before the attacks or moves down into the Kona region, Algeria was reinforcing ACME camps north of Timbuktu, allowing or sending, if you like, activists directly across the border. These were coming through from Algeria. Some had come down from the Western Sahara regions or the camps, the Tindouf. A few had come even across from Morocco, but they were being sent down into the region by Algeria, supporting and strengthening the Islamist groups. The numbers we're dealing there are probably with many dozens, probably not many more than 100, but these are tough fighters, they're experienced. And this has been going on throughout the year. Fuel supplies have been allowed through from Algeria. And the Islamists have known that they've been getting the support from Algeria, as they have been for a long period of time. When I say the Islamists, we're talking about one or two sort of leaders, the actual leaders of the groups, Abdulhamid Abu Zaid, Yahya Juadi, Iyad himself, they all know this. Now, I think what has happened here...
When you say getting support from Algeria, let's be very clear about that. Do you mean support from the top or support from certain friends inside of the Algerian secret services?
The top, I mean by the top, I mean the DRS. So you'd start with Medien, you work down through Tatag, and these are the people who have been backing this, and this is nothing new. This has been going on for 20 years.
Cyril speaking. Cyril Vanier. I'm a journalist here at France 24. Jeremy, I've heard you on these debates before, and I've heard other people say that Algeria is giving support to the Islamists. I've never seen any evidence of this. I'm just wondering, on what grounds are you saying this? Because Algeria has fought Islamists ceaselessly on its own soil for years.
Well, take the 1990s. There is an overwhelming amount of evidence, absolutely, truckloads of it, that probably about half of the atrocities committed, maybe more, during the 1990s, civilian massacres, whereby the Algerian secret services, military services, les Radicateurs, this was done by the military, it's the military forces, infiltrating the GIA, then the GSPC. That is established knowledge. Everyone knows that. Now, since then, nothing much has really changed. That is the creation of their own sort of terrorists, as in the 1990s, has sort of continued. We have it through the El Para operations. If we look at the same individual leaders now, Abdulhamid Abu Zaid, their linkages go back to that period. They were part of that sort of structure.
You're claiming that those structures are still in place. We're going to pick up on that point when we come back and, of course, get the reaction of our correspondent in Algiers to what you're saying. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.